Welcome to the Dropout Drop-In. It's producer Liz.
And the Jordon Brown. Is that how I introduce myself? Oh no.
Dr. Op-Out.
Dr. Op-Out. That's a
There
thing
it
sometimes
is.
people call me.
It's been 12,000 years since we've talked about Misfits and Magic. Entirely
Yeah.
my fault, but we're back. End of
Look,
season.
some of us had to go to Toronto. Toronto. Is there a T in there?
Toronto.
Yeah, that's what I
Toronto.
thought. I was right at the set. I knew it in my head, which is why I corrected myself. I don't want the
right.
comments coming for me.
The fact that you corrected it gives you a big pass because a lot of people just straight up go for that second T with all the power in their heart, and that's
Yeah.
how you know they're not one.
Anyway, you needed the Eras Ur in Toronto. No T's.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, sure.
Taylor
man,
Swift.
A lot's happened. A lot of Taylor Swift has happened in the past few weeks. It's been bananas. But Jordan, what did you think of this finale for Misfits and Magic? We had a 3-hour plus
Yeah.
episode waiting for us. That extra episode was clearly needed, as identified.
Yeah, I was not prepared for when I hit play that it was going to be 3 hours and 15 minutes long. I was like, oh, well, I'm not finishing this tonight. It's too late. No one told me that I needed to start this at 7 p.m. But yeah, I mean, like, just we talked about it a little before we started recording. Powerhouse performances from everyone, but Danielle Radford, my goodness, just like, it's so good. Just devastated me. In that her big emotional scene. But yeah, I thought incredibly well done finale. Really well earned. It felt like it needed the 3 hours and 15 minutes, which is where did they think they were gonna not have the time for this? Like,
Yeah, for real. There's so much that we got through in that last episode that honestly, if you were to ask me, you could have split that into 2 episodes and
Yeah.
gone to an episode 14 with the amount that they went through and the pacing of it. It was just non-stop. It did remind me a little bit of the Fantasy High like season 2, which would be sophomore year. Americans, we don't use those words where I
Yeah.
live, so I'm learning. Sophomore year, thank you, where like all 6 of those characters had to go through something that took a long arc to get through, not even necessarily by time, but by amount of story they all had to cross in the finale. And I felt it was a very similar setup for the Misfits, where they each had such a long road that they kind of literally, for some of them, to walk to get to the end of their arc for the season. And I just love that Abria gave them space, gave them time through how she was narrating it, and gave them control over how they paced those moments for themselves, and they weren't kind of like railroaded to a finish. We've talked a lot earlier on in the season about how it takes a certain kind of level of trust from production to like give people time and space to do that with the constraints that they're working with, and I was just a little blown away that like they made it work so well in that time that they had.
Yeah, agreed. How did you feel about Magic is Real Now, fourth wall breaking?
Oh my god, it might be one of my favorite Dimension 20 moments ever. Like, that might be in my list of like moments that really made me jump off the couch and like reconsider all my life choices. Jordan, I listen, the thing about that moment was that we don't see a lot of genuine, heartfelt, bring the audience into the story wall breaking moments. We see a lot of jokes, we see a lot of get in the comments gang, and we see a lot of like, especially in the adventuring party, like more of a joking relationship between the people that watch Dimension 20 and the people that make Dimension 20. But to have it woven into the final narrative of the season and bringing everyone in, complementing that with the way that in the AP adventuring party that came before the finale, we heard from many of the people behind the scenes about how they think about community when they're building the show, the sets, the lighting, the hair and makeup and styling. Like, it just, I had shivers.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I thought it was absolutely beautiful. I do want to shout out Denise, the makeup person from the AP, because Denise has been on my list forever. Like, of like, I need to interview. Like, I have a million people on a list of like virtually everyone who's ever been in a credit for Dimension 20 is on a list, and immediately, I think I think Denise closed out, right? Like was like the final thought of the AP, and it was so brilliant and profound that I was like, top of my list. I gotta get this right now. But yeah, like that thinking of community is so good, and especially in a season where you're rejecting the ownership of like a Harry Potter ownership of like, we're not gonna do like a Harry Potter spoof whatever, we're gonna make it our own world, and we're gonna like and then to at the end of it to be like, all right, people who feel betrayed by Harry Potter's author, which is almost everyone, magic is real. Like it just a brilliance from Abria. The audacity to be that good.
The audacity to be that good is truly like the line in Abria's bio that needs to like be front and center, because it is audacious to, as we've said, come into a season 2 like this and boldly and clearly declare we are departing. We are not picking up where we left. We are going in a new direction. We are doing a time jump, like to match real time since we visited this. It's just so what is the emotion this is bringing up in me? It's like, it makes me feel so proud to see someone in the seat doing that. I don't know Abria. I've met Abria once. Like not in the sense of like, oh wow, this is a person I know and I'm parasocial, but in the sense of like, when you watch bold media be made in real time, the amount of people that do not have space to create on their own terms and have to create within these boxes that get smaller and smaller and smaller the more you're involved in budget and studio and production and people at the top like dictating down what should be. And this felt like the antithesis of that style of making television. It felt so like emboldening and like reminded me so much of like the power of creative ownership. And Abria just like fucking punched through that like glass ceiling and was like, this is what happens when you trust yourself, trust your crew, trust your players, and just go for it. And you don't let any, I mean, we don't know what no's may have been said behind the scenes. We don't know if Abria wanted to make a hole in the table and was told no, but like in theory, like it didn't look like there were a lot of no's that got in the way of how this story was told. And that was just so freeing to watch as someone that would love to make things like that.
Yeah. Well, we do know a couple of no's. They wanted to make a hologram and discovered that it's not a thing.
Fair.
And for sure, Abria wanted to cut a hole in the table because Rick Perry said we didn't cut a hole in the table for this season, implying we've got a hole in the table coming for an upcoming season, and I can't wait for whatever that could possibly mean.
Can I cast a prediction immediately? Okay, the way that I would like to see a hole in the Dimension 20 table happen is like a cake that someone jumps out of. That is what I would like to see. Like, if things aren't jumping out of the middle of the table, what is the point?
Yeah, things are loaded from the bottom and sprung out. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, would you like to cast a prediction for hole in the table Dimension 20?
I mean, I think it's going to be a Brennan season out of spite because Abria wants a hole in the table so badly. I think Brennan is going to be the one that gets it just to be like, no, I did it first.
So good.
I will say, speaking of Brennan, I've got an interview with him dropping on my Patreon on Friday. That's a nice little plug. But he talked about in the interview, and apologies, you will have to watch the interview because I don't remember the name of the artist that he mentioned, but it was an artist who was a friend of his, had messaged him, was like, hey, we've got Dimension 20 on, and I love you, and all my friends love your digital corona. The idea of, like, they don't know you, so they don't love you, but they love everything that you do, and I think it's just, like, a beautiful sentiment. And the same thing that, like, you're talking about of, like, you love Abria's digital corona, of, like, you have made something so beautiful and profound, I agree 1,000,000%.
It's so exciting to watch Abria, like, and we talked about this. Abria comes into Dimension 20, does something that is totally out there, and then it changes the trajectory, seemingly, of how the show is made because of it. And it started with Misfits Season 1 and bringing props to the table, and those wands off the top being like, wow, okay, like, this is kind of cool to see players interact with, like, real tactile things at the table. And then, obviously, we had so much shit in Burrow's End that was just insane. The bear being like one of 5,000 choices that just felt wild and unpredictable. This season you have like the hoopty, and you have practical effects, you have special effects, you have lighting upgraded, which was a very cool tech nerdy piece for us to hear about in that AP. I was like, I wanted 12 more minutes of that, but anyway. So it's just very cool to see like the push that Abria made with this season. And doing it in a season that is so, in so many ways, completely different from Burrow's End, which was so action-packed and narrative-driven and fast-paced, and this season was so similar in some ways, but in other ways, such a character study, and giving space for like Danielle to have such incredible growth as Sam, and for all of them to just kind of sit in characters and really spend time with them.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think this season obviously like really benefited from being theater of the mind, in that, you know, it was like, all right, like, yeah, the hoopty is here, and we're gonna like, it spins and it does all the cool things, and I love that interactivity. But yeah, getting them to just be like, all right, we're gonna put up like an island background behind you, and you guys are just gonna go buck wild, go nuts. So good. It's so good.
Jordan, what was your favorite, like, top 3 moments from the back half of the season? Since we did not meet to talk episode by episode, do you have a couple moments that stand out to you? Or...
I mean, look, I'm going to steal the one that is, I think, everyone's favorite moment. It's the Shadow kicking Evan Kemp into Sam. As a thing that I just don't even like. It's not that I don't care about like shipping, but like, I'm fine with it. Look, the reason why I don't ship characters is because I would rather the storytellers tell me the story they want than me to like project onto it what I want, and then either be like ecstatic that I was right or devastated I was wrong. Like I'm happy just to go along for the ride. So like I don't like I saw lots of the comments of, like, I want Sam and Evan, and I was like, I don't care how it ends up. But like it was a beautiful ending regardless, and I loved it, and I'm so happy they went there. But yes, Abria having the Shadow kick Evan is just absolutely perfect with his magic boots, and then like all of it.
And then T2 coming in with the ability to speak perfect English.
So good.
And just choosing not to for 2 seasons straight.
Yeah, and just being like, it's funnier if I didn't talk, is brilliant.
So good. Yeah, completely agree. I loved so much about that dynamic and what Brennan and Danielle, the room that they gave for each other to perform that way. It made me think a lot about how Brennan and Oscar performed in also an Abria season, where Abria was pushing characters together in a maybe not a shadow kicking kind of way, but I just thought it was so fun to see a character like Evan who will kill you.
Canonically
Find his softer side, and then Danielle constantly giving space for the softness to like have a home at the table to land, and not just like face plant. It takes a lot of the word that's coming to mind to me, but it does not apply to Danielle, is it takes a lot of ego management to be able to be that giving when you're a performer. And it's like just so a representation of what is the opposite of being an egomaniac? Like, that's what Danielle is. Like, she's just like, I can't think of the word, but like she just gives so much to everyone, and it's such a gift that like people spend their whole careers not being able to find for one another.
I will say, like, having talked to Danielle quite a bit, she will tell you about how blessed she is for the tables she's gotten to play at, because obviously, like, the Mismag table is Worlds Beyond Number plus Danielle, right? Like, she's in Goblin mode right now, which is Amy Vorpal, Jason Wynn, and Dan Casey, like another like killer lineup table. Obviously, she was in Mentopolis, phenomenal lineup as well, and like the thing is, like, she deserves to be at those tables, not just like generally speaking, but has proven time and time again that she deserves every spot at every table she's ever been at. She is so absurdly talented and good at like collaborative storytelling. She's good in general, but like collaborative storytelling specifically, she's so talented at.
I completely 100% agree. It takes a special talent to do this kind of work, which is why not everyone does this kind of work. And it takes a lot to trust that you can lift the energy needed for a show, that like, not to discredit the amount of incredible stuff that is done to make the set and the show and the shot and the edit exciting, but we're not watching fictional serialized television show that's got like all these moving parts and camera angles and sets and movement. Like, we're watching 5 people sit at a table, and they manage, not just for 3 hours and 15 minutes, but for 13 episodes to
11 episodes, but yes.
Oh, thank you. 11 episodes. Why did I think it was? Anyway, it doesn't matter. They managed to convince us that we're in all of these various islands, and not for 1 second did I get bored. And that's kind of like the magic that Dimension 20 has grown so much over the seasons with, is like finding ways of making this sit down setting feel like so alive.
Yeah, so alive without the use of battle maps, which I think, like, I don't want to say was like a crutch in like Fantasy High freshman year, because obviously the players are brilliant and everything, like, that's a brilliant season, but like obviously like they were doing 1 episode of roleplay, 1 episode of battle. Like there was a formula that they were following because they're like, people are going to need the action set piece to like keep them moving from episode to episode, and obviously they have moved away from that generally, even on seasons that have battle sets. But like, yeah, like especially like seasons like this, or seasons like A Court of Fey and Flowers, where you're like, all right, look, the middle part of the table is not going to change. It's going to be this. What you're going to get is, I mean, now projections because they're stepping up their game, but like mostly what you're getting is the performances of these, limited number of people in front of you.
Yep, 100%. And speaking of performances that really brought the energy in the back half of the season, Kay and Jammer.
Yeah.
I love the way that their friendship dynamic and the way that they kind of developed what felt like a buddy cop, almost like side commenting to each other, side storying to each other, as Evan and Sam were finding this like relationship and soft space. Those two really found a jam for Jammer. Like they really found a rhythm to like find humor and heart within that was totally different, which I also feel like is hard to do when you have one thing so clearly taken, right? Like, I don't think there's a world where Kay and Jammer falling in love makes any sense.
Yeah.
But it is off the table once another half of the table goes that way. You're like, all right, well, I guess I'm not going to fall in love this season because we have that arc very clearly maybe happening over here. So, like, what is in the space that I can take up to have something different, distinct, and true also happening at the table? And I loved the rhythm that those two went in. It felt very complimentary.
Yeah, definitely. Loved everything that they brought to the table. I will also say you asked for like some specific highlights that I love. This is not the emotional one. This is everyone riding brooms incorrectly. Too funny. Evan on a stand-up push broom. Jammer holding on for no reason. Yep. Absolutely incredible. Yeah.
Lou's commitment to a bit really was fun to play with this season. One of my favorite like elements of his character was like he it didn't matter how long someone else was going on for. When you cut back to him, he was exactly in the bit you left him in, and I loved that so much. Yeah. Do you have a third moment from the season that you're like, this is...
Oh no, because now the only thing I can think of is the opposite of that, when they were like, what if Jammer was just up there just scoring points in Scupper while everyone is having this deeply emotional moment on the ground. He's like, no, I'm on the ground. Man,
I did love the moment when Kay put everyone into super suits.
Yes, that was really great.
Was wild.
I mean, look, and again, a Danielle moment of what color, and her saying the titties brown. I mean, genuinely one of the funniest things I've ever heard on Dimension 20.
Has Bria ever broken like that at the table?
The only thing I can think of is that she's deeply affected by the Percy voice from Critical Role, and Taliesin does the Percy voice next to her on a stream, and she like melts into a puddle. I think that it's look, when I talk to Bria in like a week and a half, that question is on my list of like, what's more breaking for you? The titties are brown or the Percy voice.
Yeah, okay, good. We can all look forward to that, because that is an answer I simply need to have.
Yeah. But yeah, oh man, I really loved, God, I don't remember when, I don't remember the last time we talked, so we may have already talked about it, but Kay going full, like, I'm gonna keep diving until I have absorbed all magic that exists, is one of my, like, in a horrifying way, one of my favorite moments from the season of just like that idea, like Erica's arc with Kay of like, I started solitary and like a lunatic, and I've moved into community, but still a lunatic at the end. It was fantastic. I love what they did with Kay this season.
I do feel like I have to eat my words a little bit because I also love how it ended up. And off the top of the season, I was convinced Kay or Evan was not making it to the end of the season. I mean, was very...
Technically, one of them did die.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Okay, so maybe we weren't totally off. It was just very different from how I envisioned this ending for Kay. Like, Kay started in such a strong place that was so closed, and Kay's job was to kind of reopen themselves and not be this, like... Kay kind of went from, like, internal cyborg to literal cyborg things happening with magic being stored in Kay's brain. And I it's not what I expected, and I loved the end point not being, like, a bold departure from, like, why Kay is tuned the way that they are. And I just thought it was such a neat, like... you know, in a world where you can take huge swings, and that last arc of like going through the streets and having this like definitive moment, and Jammer's input being like, no, I'm not like feeling this vibe. Like, it was just such a neat like landing.
Yeah.
Okay, I really liked it. And similarly, I was convinced Evan was gone. Evan's gonna sacrifice himself for his friends, like, absolutely. So seeing him also kind of have a softer landing and like stepping down from that, I am like not the hero of the group, but like I'm the one that's gonna like take these absurd swings and like find myself in the place of sacrifice. Like, that was also really neat to see. Not what I expected at all.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got to keep it up for Miss Mag season 3. Adventures to come.
Thank God. Yeah. I need to see what Jammer's gonna do walking around with the wings 24/7, because that was wild. That was one of my top, like,
really love Abria saying, let me airbud you, and Lou not understanding what she was talking about. Look, Lou seemed very tired at the end of that, and, you know, it was, I'm gonna guess, 3 a.m. in a warehouse in whichever city in Los Angeles that Allie wants to pick this time.
Like, when you play D&D or like any kind of like actual play, Jordan, like when you do one session, are you exhausted afterwards? Because I am. Like,
1,000,000%, yeah.
We get through 1 3-hour session and it's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go sleep for 12 hours and see you 2 weeks from now. And they're bodying through these recordings. Like, I understand they're technically, all of them to some extent are like professional players and like have to be able to like train to do this in a way that like the average, not to call you average, calling myself average.
No, 100% average here as well.
The average Joe kind of player like does not have to, but even still, like days where you have to do back-to-back shoots of anything are exhausting. Days where you have to do back-to-back performances of anything are exhausting. Days where you have to improvise back-to-back are exhausting. Combine all of those things and wrap your character up in a bow that will not piss off the entire audience.
Right. Yeah.
That's a hard day.
Land a plane you are building in the air. I every once in a while, very rarely, will have 2 interviews in a day. I try really hard not to schedule those, and those days nearly kill me. And that's 2 hours of work. Like, it is, like, I can't imagine trying to do that. And the thing we know about Abria is she's an elven princess and doesn't require food to make it through those kinds of days. Can just eat, like, that one, like, corner of a lembas bread and is fine. I'm much more Team Brennan, where I'm shoveling almonds into my body while I'm desperately trying to like move forward. And look, I have a charity stream coming up. I'm sure we'll plug it here in a minute. But there will be a like mixed nuts box next to me as I like desperately attempt to like keep my level of energy as high as I can have it. And then afterwards, I will definitely like lay down on the ground for an hour.
I can't even watch the stream like what you're planning or shows like this without snacking, and I'm just receiving the energy that they're putting through the screen to me, let alone like having to experience it in real time. So man, it's one of the things that my brain can never turn off is the ability to empathize with people that are making the thing I'm watching, no matter how I think or feel about it, because it's just so difficult to do any of this work. And the amount of empathy, like, that dialed up when in the AP they were saying, like, yeah, we're doing this so everyone can take a break before they record the finale. And I was like, yo, like, this is a hard shoot.
Yeah.
It's a hard day, even if it's fun and amazing and it's everyone's dream to be a professional, like, actual play performer, player. Like, oh man, the energy that you would need to get through, and then to go home to your family and, like, be an adult with a life. Like, man, oh man, I'd be ordering takeout. I'd be like, do not speak to me. I'm done. So big round of applause from me to everyone who makes this show happen.
I know Abria has described it as slug mode when she finishes a season of Dimension 20, where she is just basically worthless for, like, weeks, if not longer. And I get it. Like, I don't know how they do it. It's amazing.
It's a true testament to the amount of time it takes to get.
I have my third moment. It's biblically accurate Chris Angel.
Oh my god.
Being devoured by Brennan's father, a thing I did not understand at all in the moment, and didn't get it until they released the clip of Brennan saying, hell isn't a place where you're burning 3 years ago. Hell isn't a place where you're burning. Hell is a quiet forest where your father devours you inside of his chest. And I was like, oh, Brennan built this joke. This is Fantasy High junior year. They just didn't have the clip to play. Brennan had this bit that he's gonna come in here and sweep up the bit that he started, and he's sending Chris Angel to hell. Got it. Okay.
I truly had to pause and rewind when Abria Abria introduced, and then it cut right to character arc. I had to replay that, like, I think twice before I moved on. I was and then the way that Evan Kelp turned off and Brennan turned on was one of the funniest Brennan moments I've seen on Dimension 20. I enjoyed so much his anger and vitriol immediately towards everything happening.
Yep. So good.
And and then Danielle transforming hair into popcorn.
Yes.
Genius.
Perfect. Yeah.
Genius work again.
That was absolutely perfect. I guess a runner-up. This might actually should probably be on the list. Tabby breaking character. Carlos yelling at Brennan as Brennan. This is truly so perfect.
So good. So good. That whole tension with Tabby in the finale, I thought was such a cool ending to that arc. I really was like, if Tabby turns out to be, like, a sidekick NPC turned character that we have to carry on forevermore and be buddy with, and not have, like, I should have just trusted Abria from the beginning, because as much as you've been Team Tabby forever, I've been a little, like, not sure how I feel about, like, an object at the table becoming so part of the table. So I really liked the way it ended. I shouldn't have been so worried. I should have just chilled the fuck out, let Abria do her storytelling.
Yep.
So good.
Team Tabby till I die. Look, I was always right. I love Tabby. I don't care that he murdered them in most of the dimensions. He's the best.
And that's the clip that we're putting on social. Wow. So glad we got there. I'm so excited to see what you all think, because I know that there's been lots of asks for us to continue on with the series. I'm so sorry that we did not go episode by episode for the back half of the season. Was not the intention, was entirely life, but we're here now, so we can all chat in the comments about what we thought about all the episodes and where we go from here. Let's talk about your stream really quick for those. I don't know who is still watching this and has not heard, but if somehow you've missed it, Jordan's got huge news for you.
January 18th on my Twitch channel, I will be running a one-shot set in Umora, the world from The Wizard, the Witch, and the Wild One. It will be featuring Haley Whipjack, Christina Ariel, Iffy Wadiway, Danielle Radford, Abria Iyengar, and Brennan Lee Mulligan. I've flown too close to the sun, and I'm so excited about it. We're raising money for Doctors Without Borders. It's really exciting. Abria is going to be a wizard of the Citadel. Brennan is going to play a witch. Those are both things that were built specifically for the Wizard, the Witch, and the Wild One. So I'm really excited for that. And because it's for charity, you can level them up. It is going to be the only time for presumptive future that you will be able to see a high-level witch or wizard of the Citadel, because they're moving on to a space campaign as soon as Arc 4 wraps up, which is sometime probably in the next 6 months, but, sometime.
So not only is this your chance to see these characters happening now and not have to wait for however long in the future we return, but you get to immediately, forever impact the blood feud between Jordon and Abria.
Correct. Yep.
You get to see Brennan, who has promised legal
boy.
legal minefield galore with some infusions from other properties that he owns and can therefore do whatever he wants with.
Yeah, so this was a mistake. Someone messaged me, because I announced it's for Doctors Without Borders, and before they knew Brennan was going to be in it, they said Citizen Doctors Without Borders, and there was a character that Brennan played on D&D, I think it was called Chaos, I don't remember. It was Absolute Chaos. He was Citizen Dr. Abraham Mahernbler. Which is another name that Abria hates so much. And so I said that to him, and he's like, yeah, that's my witch is going to be a variant of Citizen Dr. Abraham Mahernbler. It's also going to tie in Fantasy High Inspire and Critical Role in Exandria. And he was like, I'm going to make a legal minefield for you. So I don't know what that's going to look like, but we'll find out. Look, Brennan's got a one-shot to play in. You know he's going to get weird, so...
What Brennan didn't tell you is this is what I asked for Christmas. Was a legal minefield for this stream to happen with it. Oh, it's so exciting.
I can't wait to get a cease and desist from Matt Mercer.
He jumps onto the screen to deliver it personally. Perfect. No, it's going to be so much fun. And that's right before you head to New York to cover all of the Dropout things happening. I will also be heading to New York to cover all the Dropout things happening in January, because now we've got a full week almost of at least 4 days of programming happening.
If you are a Dropout fan, boy, that's Tuesday is bigger, Wednesday is bigger, Thursday is the Dropout Improv live show, and then Friday is Madison Square Garden. I will be at 3 of those 4 things, and if you see me, you should say hi.
If you see me, you should say hi. Yeah. If you see us, don't say hi. If you see the 2 of us separately, you can say hi. The 2 of us together, you can't say hi unless you wave from very far away, and then Jordon can tell me that someone's waving at us, because I don't perceive well in large spaces. I have no facial recognition. So actually, don't say hi to me unless I'm with Jordon, so he can tell me that this is someone we know. That would be my... Got that, everyone? Great, perfect. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody, and we will see you for another discussion another time. Not about Misfits and Magic, because that's done, but about very important people, Time Quangle, all the things. Nice to see your face, Jordon.
You as well.
Bye.